Okay, guys, the reason why I'm doing this live is because I got interested in Jainism because of the Mel Sitamur protest. And while trying to read something about it, I heard that H.T. Colebrooke was the earliest person to talk about Jainism from the British colonial system or establishment, I should say. So, and then I was trying to look for what he had written, and there were not much of proper information about it. So I just tried to go through miscellaneous essays so that I might find something that he had written about Jainism in these. And while trying to read this book, I found something very curious. That's why I began this live right now. So, this book, Miscellaneous Essays by H.T. Colebrooke, in two volumes. Volume 1, London, William H. Allen and Co., Leadenhall Street, 1837. So, and printed by J.L. Cox and Sons, 75 Great Queen Street, Lincoln City. It's all normal. But the curious part of the book comes here. Here he has or a page which calls itself as an advertisement or whatever. And when we read it, the volumes now laid before the public comprise a selection from the several essays originally published by the author in the Transactions of the Learned Asiatic Societies, with the addition of four prefaces to works originally edited or translated by him. It is not his intention to carry the selection into a third volume. So this is the curious part about it. So he calls it an advertisement, but then what he writes here is something that we don't call advertisements. I don't know how this becomes an advertisement, or probably the word advertisement at that time in its initial stages meant something totally different from what it actually means now. So if we go into the origin of the word, if you try to divide the word into its components, into its roots, adver, advert, and advertisement or advertisement, all these kinds of divisions, say something like something that has been said aside, or something like a warning or a caution, or something to a kind of a disqualification, or even you can say something like something said in tangent about a work, you know. So that is the term, that is the sense actually Colebrooke uses here. So in the last line, he actually mentions it is not his intention to carry the selection into a third volume. So he definitely says that it's going to be only two volumes, that this is the first volume, and there's going to be another volume, and that's it. Not going to be anything more. So that's something very curious meaning for advertisement given in the earlier stages of the evolution of the word. So now let's go and try to find whether he has written something about James. He seems to have written a lot, and I don't know what exactly the articles are. So I just have to look for the articles, and we'll be able to find the article. So, contents of Volume 1, a discourse read at a meeting of Royal Society of Great Britain and Ireland on 15th. The second chapter is on Vedas or sacred writings of Hindus. The third is on the duties of a faithful Hindu widow. And fourth on the religious ceremonies of the Hindus and Brahmins. Essay 1, 2, and 3. And the fifth essays on the philosophy of Hindus, on the Sankhya system, on the Nyaya and Vaisheshika system, and on the Mimamsa. And part 4 on the Vedanta, and part 5 on Indian sectaries. So up till here, I don't think there is anything could be about Jains. Probably the last one on Indian sectaries might be something to do with Jains. Probably. So let's go over there and try to read that. 378. Okay, I jumped to a lot of further pages. 378. Let's see what this page is. 378 in up, 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 up. 378. 378. So here I think he must have written something about, yes, this is about the section sectaries or the heterodox sects of Hindu tradition or the on the philosophy of Hindus, part 5 on Indian sectaries from the Transactions of the Royal Asiatic Society, volume 1, pages 549 to 579. In the present essay, it is my intention to treat of the heretical systems of Jaina and Buddha as proposed in the first essay of this series on the philosophy of the Hindus, and to notice certain other Indian sects which, like them, exhibit some analogy to the Sankhyas or followers of Kapila or of Patanjali. The theological or metaphysical opinions of those sectaries, apart from and exclusive of mythology and ritual ceremonies, may be not inaptly considered as a branch of philosophy, though constituting the essence of their religion, comprehending not only their belief as to the divinity and a future state, but also certain observances to be practiced in furtherance of the prescribed means for attaining perpetual bliss, which here, as with most other sects of Indian origin, is the meed proposed for true and perfect knowledge of first principles. The Jainas and Buddhas I consider to have been originally Hindus, and the first mentioned to be so still, because they are recognized as they yet do the distinction of the four castes. Oh, Colebrooke says that Jainas recognize the distinction of four castes. Curious. It is true that in Hindustan, if not in the peninsula of India likewise, the Jainas are all of one caste. But this is accounted for the admission of their adversaries, Kumarila Bhatta and etc., who affirm that they are misguided Kshatriyas, Hindus of the second or military tribe. They call themselves Vaishyas. On renouncing the heresies of the Jaina sect, they take their place among Orthodox Hindus as belonging to a particular caste, Kshatriya or Vaishya. The representative of the great family of Jagat Seth, who with many of his kindred was converted some years ago from the Jaina to the Orthodox faith, is a conspicuous instance. Such would not be the case of a convert who has not already caste as a Hindu. Okay, so there were converts to Jainism, from Jainism to Hinduism, probably Saivism, like in the old Tamil histories, probably. Both religions of Jaina and Buddha are, in the view of the Hindu, who reveres the Veda as a divine revelation, completely heterodox, and that more on account of their heresy in denying its divine origin than for their deviation from its doctrine. Other sects, as the Sankhyas and the Vaiseshikas, though not orthodox, do not openly disclaim the authority of the Veda. They endeavor to reconcile their doctrine to the text of the Indian scripture and refer to passages which they interpret as countenancing their opinions. The Mimamsa, which professedly follows the Veda implicitly, is therefore applied in its controversy with these half heretics to the confutation of such misinterpretations. It refutes an erroneous construction rather than a mistaken train of reasoning. But the Jainas and Bauddhas, disavowing the Veda, are out of the pale of the Hindu church in its most comprehensive range. And the Mimamsa, practical as well as theological, in controversy with these infidels, for so it deems them, argues upon general grounds of reasoning independent of authority, to which it would be vain to appeal. The Uttara Mimamsa devotes two sections, Adhicharanas, to the confutation of the Bauddhas and one to that of the Jainas. They are the fourth, fifth, and sixth sections in the second chapter of the second lecture. And it proceeds in the same controversial chapter to confute the Pashupatas and other branches of the Maheshwara sect, and the Pancharatra, a branch of the Vaishnava. The Charvakas are alluded to incidentally in a very important section concerning the distinction of body and soul in the third chapter of the third lecture, section 30. In the Purva Mimamsa, controversy is more scattered, recurring in various places under diverse heads, but especially in the third chapter of the first book, section 4. The Sankhya of Kapila devotes a whole chapter to controversy and notices the sect of Buddha under the designation of Nastikas, and in one place animadverts on the Pashpatas and in another on the Charvakas. It is from these and similar controversial disquisitions, more than from direct sources, that I derive the information upon which the following account of the philosophy of Jainas and Bauddhas, as well as of the Charvakas, Pashupatas, and Pancharatras, is grounded. A good collection of original works by writers of their own persuasion, whether in the Sanskrit language or in the Prakrit or Pali, the language of the Jainas and that of the Bauddhas, is not at hand to be consulted. But although the information be furnished by their adversaries and even inveterate enemies, it appears, so far as I have any opportunity of comparing it with their own representation, essentially same or essentially correct. Sect of Jina. The Jainas or Arhats, followers of Jina or Arhat, terms of like import, are also denominated Vivasanas, Muktavasanas, Muktambaras or Digambaras, with reference to the nakedness of the rigid order of ascetics in this sect who go bare of clothing, disrobed or clad by the regions of space. The less strict order of Shvetambaras, clad in white, is of more modern date and of inferior note. Among nicknames by which they are known, that of Lunchita Kesha occurs. It alludes to the practice of abruptly eradicating hair of the head or body by way of mortification. Parshvanatha is described as tearing 5 handfuls of hair from his head on becoming a devotee. According to the Digambara Jains, the universe consists of two classes, animate and inanimate, Jiva and Ajiva, without a creator or ruling providence or Ishvara. They assign for the cause, Sharana, of the world, atoms which they do not, as the Vaisheshikas, distinguish into so many sorts as there are elements, but consider these, viz. Earth, water, fire, and air, the 4 elements by them admitted, as modified compounds of homogeneous atoms. These gymnosophists distinguish, as already intimated, two chief categories. First, Jiva, intelligent and sentient soul, Chaitana Atma or Bodhatma, endued with body and consequently composed of parts. Eternal. Second, Ajiva, all that is not a living soul, that is, the whole of Jada or inanimate and unsentient substance. The one is the object of fruition, being that which is to be enjoyed, bhogya, by the soul. The other is the enjoyer, bhokta, or agent in fruition, soul itself. This second comprehensive predicament admits a sixfold subdivision, and the entire number of categories or padartha, as distinguished with reference to the ultimate great object of the soul's deliverance, is consequently 7. 1. Jiva or soul, as before mentioned, comprising 3 descriptions. First, Nitya Siddha, ever perfect, or Yoga Siddha, perfect by profound abstraction. For instance, Arhats or Jinas, the deified saints of the sect. Second, Mukta or Muktatma, a soul which is free or liberated, its deliverance having been accomplished through the strict observance of the precepts of the Jinas. Third, Baddha or Baddhatma, a soul which is bound, being in any stage antecedent to deliverance, remaining yet fettered by deeds or works, karma. 2. Ajiva, taken in a restricted sense. It comprehends the four elements earth, water, fire, and air, and all which is fixed, sthavara as mountains, or movable, jangama as rivers, and etc. In a different arrangement to be hereafter noticed, this category is termed Pudgala matter. Number 3 to 7. The five remaining categories are distributed into two classes, that which is to be effected sadhya and the means thereof sadhana. One comprising two and the other three divisions. What may be effected or sadhya is either liberation or confinement, both of which will be noticed further on. The three efficient means sadhana are as follow. Number 3, Ashrava or Asrava is that which directs the embodied spirit, Asravayati Purusham, towards external objects. It is the occupation or employment, vritti or pravritti, of the senses or organs on sensible objects. Through the means of the senses, it affects the embodied spirit with the sentiment of taction, color, smell, and taste. Or it is the association or connection of body with right and wrong deeds. It comprises all the karmas, for they ashravayanti, pervade, influence, and attend the doer, following him or attaching to him. It is a misdirection, mithya pravritti of the organs, for it is vain as cause of disappointment, rendering the organs of sense and sensible objects subservient to fruition. Number 4, samvara is that which stops, samvrinoti, the course of the foregoing, or closes up the door or passage of it, and consists in self-command or restraint of organs internal and external, embracing all means of self-control and subjection of the senses, calming and subduing them. It is the right direction, samyak pravritti of the organs. Number 5, nirjara is that which utterly and entirely, that is nir, wears and antiquates, jarayati, all sin previously incurred, and the whole effect of works or deeds, karma. It consists chiefly in mortification or tapas, such as fasts, rigorous silence, standing upon heated stones, plucking out the hair by the roots, and etc. This is discriminated from the two preceding as neither misdirection nor right direction, but non-direction, apravritti of the organs towards sensible objects. Baddha is that which binds, badnati, the embodied spirit. It is confinement and connection or association of the soul with deeds. It consists in a succession of births and deaths as the result of works or karman. Number 7, moksha is liberation or deliverance of the soul from the fetters of works. It is the state of a soul in which knowledge and other requisites are developed. Relieved from the bondage of deeds through means taught by holy ordinances, it takes effect on the soul by the grace of the ever-perfect Arhat or Jina. Or liberation is continual ascent. The soul has a buoyancy or natural tendency upwards, but is kept down by corporal trammels. When freed from them, it rises to the region of the liberated. Long immersed in corporeal restraint, but released from it as a bird let loose from a cage, plunging into water to wash off the dirt with which it was stained, and drying its pinions in the sunshine, soars aloft. So does the soul, released from long confinement, soar high, never to return. Liberation then is the condition of a soul clear of all impediments. It is attained by right knowledge, doctrine, and observances, and is a result of the unrestrained operation of the soul's natural tendency when passions and every other obstacle are removed. Works or deeds, for so the term karman signifies, though several among those enumerated be neither acts nor the effects of action, are reckoned 8, and are distributed into two classes, comprising four each. The first, Ghatin, mischievous, and Asadu, impure, as marring deliverance. The second, Aghatin, harmless, or Sadhu, pure, as opposing no obstacle to liberation. In the first set is first, Nyaya Varaniya, the erroneous notion that knowledge is ineffectual, that liberation does not result from a perfect acquaintance with true principles, and that such science does not produce final deliverance. Second, Darshana Varaniya, the error of believing that deliverance is not attainable by study of the doctrine of the Arhats or Jinas. Third, Mohaniya, doubt and hesitation as to particular selection among the many irresistible and infallible ways taught by the Tirthankaras or Jinas. Fourth, Antaraya, interference or obstruction offered to those engaged in seeking deliverance and consequent prevention of their accomplishment of it. Number 2, the second contains first, Vedaniya, individual consciousness, reflection that I am capable of attaining deliverance. Second, Namicha, individual consciousness of an appellation, reflection that I bear this name. Third, Gotricha, consciousness of race or lineage, reflection that I am descendant of a certain disciple of Jina, native of a certain province. Fourth, Ayushka, association or connection with the body or person. That, as the etymology of the term denotes, which proclaims Kayate, age, Ayush, or duration of life. Otherwise interpreted, the four karmas of this second set, taken in the inverse order, that is, beginning with Ayushka, import procreation and subsequent progress in the formation of the person or body, wherein deliverance is attainable by the soul which animates it. For it is by connection with white or immaculate matter that final liberation can be accomplished. I shall not dwell on the particular explanation respectively of these four karmas taken in this sense. Another arrangement, which likewise has special reference to final deliverance, is taught in a fivefold distribution of the predicaments or categories. Astikaya. The word here referred to is explained as signifying a substance commonly occurring or a term of general import or conformably with its etymology, that of which it is said kayate, that it is asti, in other words, that of which existence is predicated. The first is Jivastikaya, the predicament, life or soul. It is, as before noticed, either bound, liberated, or ever perfect. Number 2, Pudgalastikaya, the predicament, matter, comprehending all bodies composed of atoms. It is sixfold, comprising the four elements and all sensible objects, fixed or movable. It is the same with the Ajiva or second of the seven categories enumerated in an arrangement before noticed. Number 3, Dharmastikaya, the predicament, virtue, inferable from a right direction of the organs. Dharma is explained as a substance or thing, dravya, from which may be concluded as its effect the soul's ascent to the region above. Number 4, Adharmastikaya, the predicament, vice, or the reverse of the foregoing. Adharma is that which causes the soul to continue embarrassed with body, notwithstanding its capacity for ascent and natural tendency to soar. Number 5, Akashastikaya, the predicament Akasha, of which there are two, Lokakasha and Alokakasha. Number 1, Lokakasha is the abode of the bound, a worldly region consisting of diverse tiers, one above the other, wherein dwell successive orders of beings unliberated. Alokakasha is the abode of the liberated above all worlds, lokas, or mundane beings. Here, Akasha implies that whence there is no return. The Jaina gymnosophists are also cited for an arrangement which enumerates six substances or dravya as constituting the world, viz. Number one, jiva, the soul. Number two, dharma or virtue, a particular substance pervading the world and causing the soul's ascent. Number three, adharma or vice, pervading the world and causing the soul's continuance with body. Number four, pudgala, matter, substance having color, odor, savor, and tactility, as wind, fire, water, and earth, either atoms or aggregates of atoms, individual body, collective worlds, and etc. Number five, kala or time, a particular substance which is practically treated as past, present, and future. Number six, akasha, a region, one and infinite. To reconcile the concurrence of opposite qualities in the same subject at different times and in different substances at the same times, the Jainas assume seven cases deemed by them opposite for obviating the difficulty. Bhanganaya. First, maybe it is. Somehow, in some measure, it so is. Second, maybe it is not. Third, maybe it is and it is not, successively. Fourth, maybe it is not predictable. Predicable. Opposite qualities coexisting. Fifth, the first and fourth of these taken together, maybe it is and yet not predicable. Sixth, the second and fourth combined, maybe it is not and not predicable. Seventh, the third or the first and second and the fourth united, maybe it is and it is not and not predicable. This notion is selected for confutation by the Vedantins to show the futility of the Jaina doctrine. It is, they observe, doubt or surmise, not certainty or nor knowledge. Opposite qualities cannot coexist in the same subject. Predicaments are not unpredicable. They are not to be affirmed if not affirmable. But they either do exist or do not. And if they do, they are to be affirmed. To say that a thing is and is not is as incoherent as a madman's talk or an idiot's babble. Another point selected by the Vedantins for animadversion is the position that the soul and body agree in dimensions. In a different stage of growth of body or of transmigration of soul, they would not be conformable. Passing from the human condition to that of an ant or of an elephant, the soul would be too big or too little for the new body animated by it. If it be augmented or diminished by accession or cessation of parts to suit either the change of person or corporeal growth between infancy and puberty, then it is variable and of course is not perpetual. If its dimensions be such as it ultimately retains when released from body, then it has been uniformly such in its original and intermediate associations with corporeal frames. If it yet be of a finite magnitude, it is not ubiquitary and eternal. The doctrine of atoms, which the Jainas have in common with the Bauddhas and the Vaiseshikas, or followers of Kanade, is controverted by the Vedantins. The train of reasoning is to the following effect. Inherent qualities of the cause, the Vaiseshikas and the rest argue, give origin to the like qualities in the effect as white yarn makes white cloth. Were a thinking being the world's cause, it would be endued with thought. The answer is that according to Kanade himself, substances great and long result from atoms minute and short. Like qualities then are not always found in the cause and in effect. The whole world with its mountains, seas and etc. consists of substances composed of parts disposed to union, as cloth is wove of a multitude of threads. The utmost subdivision of compound substances pursued to the last degree arrives at the atom, which is eternal, being simple, and such atoms, which are the elements earth, water, fire, and air, become the world's cause according to Kanade. For there can be no effect without a cause. when they are actually and universally separated, dissolution of the world has taken place. At its renovation, atoms concur by an unseen virtue which occasions action, and they form double atoms and so on to constitute air, then fire, next water, and afterwards earth, subsequently body with its organs, and ultimately this whole world. The concurrence of atoms arises from action, whether of one or both, which must have a cause. That cause, alleged to be an unseen virtue, cannot be insensible. For an insensible cause cannot incite action, nor can it be design, for a being capable of design is not yet existent, coming later in the progress of creation. Either way, then no action can be. Consequently, no union or disunion of atoms. And these, therefore, are not the cause of the world's formation or dissolution. Eternal atoms and transitory double atoms differ utterly, and union of discordant principles cannot take place. If aggregation be assumed as a reason of their union, still the aggregate and its integrants are utterly different, and an intimate relation is further to be sought as a reason for the aggregation. Even this assumption therefore fails. Atoms must be essentially active or inactive. Were they essentially active, creation would be perpetual. If essentially inactive, dissolution would be constant. Eternity of causeless atoms is incompatible with properties ascribed to them: color, taste, smell, and tactility. For things possessing such qualities are seen to be coarse and transient. Earth, endued with those four properties, is gross. Water, possessing three, is less so. Fire, having two, is still less. And air, with one, is fine. Whether the same be admitted or denied in respect of atoms, the argument is either way confuted. Earthy particles, coarser than aerial, would not be minute in the utmost degree, or atoms possessing but a single property would not be like their effects possessing several. The doctrine of atoms is to be utterly rejected, having been by no venerable persons received as the Sankhya doctrine of matter, a plastic principle, has been in part by Menu and other sages. Points on which the sectaries differ from the orthodox rather than those on which they conform are the subjects of the present treatise. On one point of conformity, however, it may be right to offer a brief remark, as it is one on which the Jainas appear to lay particular stress. It concerns the transmigration of the soul, whose destiny is especially governed by the dying thoughts or fancies entertained at the moment of dissolution. The Vedas, in like manner, teach that the thoughts, inclinations, and resolves of man, and such peculiarly as predominate in his dying moments, determine the future character and regulate the subsequent place in transmigration. As was his thought in one body, such he becomes in another, into which he accordingly passes. End of the section on Jains. Now the section on Buddha. Okay, this we will reserve to another video.